Good morning, Bulldogs. It's Mrs. H, and we are here this Tuesday morning for another edition of IB Advisory. This week is week number 6. It's going to be an introduction to the IB design cycle, and today we're going to be covering slides 1 through 11. Why care about design is a big question. How can we change our world for the better? Because each of us lives in a world with many problems, but what can we really do? This is a big question, and this isn't a question that only has one answer. This is one of those questions that you really think about, and depending on your situation, depending on what you see going on around you, depending on the many problems that are around us, because we all know that our world has many things that could be fixed with people helping out and doing their best to make it a better place. So we're going to be talking about those questions today and the bigger questions of what can we really do to help out. All right, if you remember, we talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, and these are worldwide goals in order to help make the world a better place. As you watch this, you will definitely recognize many people in this. There are many people that are famous for many things. So anyway, but notice them, but notice also how many people are really working together to try to pull this off.
We can be. We must be the first generation to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals
a 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We live in a world where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
Wakes in the morning asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
Everyone
and education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life. We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive and be powerful and safe.
we cannot succeed as comfortable. We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets at home,
At school, at work. We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone
heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper and new wealth
Lead to different jobs.
for everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
best innovations,
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we live in a world where prejudices and extremes of inequality are defeated.
inside our countries,
Between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
That are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
planet
where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from
climate change, where we restore and protect
The life in our oceans and seas.
restore and protect
Life on land,
Forests
animals, the earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries. Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
and the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries, we their people,
Work together.
partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality. These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
What I really like about this video is it shows that look at all those people out there, those that are rich and famous, those that are not famous, those that have good intentions. It's going to take more than just you and more than just me if we are going to help the world accomplish these goals by the year 2030. So here is a chart. Again, you have seen this before, but a chart of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Everything from no poverty, number 1, reduced inequalities, number 10. We have life below water, 14, life on land, 15. And number 17 is the one that I really like because partnerships for the goals. We know that not just one person, not just one country, not just one nation can help solve the world's problems, but because there are many, many, many areas that need to be developed, that need to be helped, it's going to take a lot of different people in order to do that. And so these these questions over to the side, you should be able to answer these in your assignment today. Why are the Sustainable Development Goals important for us? Why should we care what happens to our planet? And how can we help our world become a better place for everyone living in it? So really think about those questions as we're talking today and as we continue to go on. And let's see what your answers are to those questions. All right, so we've already talked about how every year our school with IB partners with one local nonprofit organization, and we link in to what their mission is and what their goals are. And it really helps speed up the process for us to be able to really help with them and what they're doing. And last year's project was with an organization called Caring for Cambodia. And this was an organization that has been around since early 2000s. It's an organization that started off just with one woman who went, she was living overseas with her husband. She went to go and tour some of the Cambodian Buddhist temples, and a little girl came up to her and asked her for $1. And she said that was nothing new. She said that she had had multiple people and those that were asking for money. But this little girl, she asked her, she had the thought to ask her, what do you need this $1 for? And the little girl said, I need it to pay for my schooling. I have to pay $1 a day for my schooling. And she said, you know what? I will give you your $1, but I want you to show me where your school is. So she toured the temple. The girl came back. They went and looked at her school. And she said that there were a bunch of kids in there, 15 or 20 kids, all of them just like this little girl, but they were waiting for their teacher. They'd been waiting there for a while, and their teacher never did show up that day. And it was a one-room schoolhouse, had dirt floors. And so that began her journey because she thought, you know what, these little kids deserve better. They deserve better schools. They deserve better teachers. And so it was her, Jamie Emilio, it was her goal to be able to help the Cambodian children with education. And like I said, that happened almost 20 years ago. And since their inception, they now have I think about 16 schools that they have built. They train teachers. They educate almost 7,000 students every year, and they built the model. And now the Cambodian government, the Cambodian Department of Education, looks to the Emilio schools for their model of how those schools should be and function. So anyway, just a fun story. Like I said, we partnered with them last year for our service learning. And we saw that there was a need. We put in a plan of action of how to help. We had a couple of different fundraisers. The teachers had a fundraiser, and we raised almost $1,000 that we then donated to Caring for Cambodia. We had a toothbrush and toothpaste fundraiser. They donate about 20,000 toothbrushes a year to help those children to have better lives, to have better health. So that was last year. This year, we are partnering, like I've already talked to you guys a little bit about, we're partnering with the Miracle Foundation. And remember, this is also a local nonprofit that's headquartered in Austin, Texas. And they were started about 20 years ago as well. And there was the lady that started it. We're going to learn a little bit more about her next week, and she will tell her story of how she ended up over in India, about how she came across orphanages with children who couldn't grow hair because they didn't have enough nutrition, enough protein in their diets, how they slept on wooden slats, wooden platform beds in the orphanage because they didn't have the funding and all the support that they needed. And that she, again, was just a woman from Austin, Texas that was visiting. And she decided, she says, why doesn't someone help these children? And then she decided, you know what? I need to help these children. I need to make sure that I can make a difference. And so her and everybody else came together under her, and she founded the Miracle Foundation. And what they have done in 20 years is amazing. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. And we're in partnership with them, which means we're going to have some opportunities to be able to help as well. The Sustainable Development Goals we're going to be focusing on this year. Take note of these. We're going to be focusing on number 3, good health and well-being. And we're going to focus on number 5, gender equality. For the good health and well-being, again, we'll talk more about this in conjunction with what the Miracle Foundation has done for the children in the orphanages for the children of India. And then gender equality, there still is quite a big difference, like in inequality between the men and the women of India. So that's something that they really work on training, and they really try to empower their girls to be able to accomplish the same things that the boys can do as well. You can follow that same plan that our entire school uses to help those without education or basic human needs like clean water, access to hygienic supplies. And we are using what is called the IB design cycle in order to help them. Okay, so this on the left-hand side is a graphic, and I realize it's a little bit fuzzy. I apologize about that. We'll be talking more about it later, and you'll get a clearer copy. But this is what the IB design cycle looks like. It can be used when trying to solve big global world problems, like with the Sustainable Development Goals, or with more local problems, like completing a project for your classes. And so if you look, there are 4 different, parts of this. First, inquiring and analyzing, developing ideas, creating the solution, and then evaluating. But I also like the graphics around the circle. Inquiring, analyzing, that's feeling what needs to happen, feeling what is going on around the world, what you can change around the world. Developing ideas, this is the light bulb moment. This is when you look at those problems and you're like, you know what, we need to develop some ideas, figure out how the steps that we can take, what can we do possibly to help alleviate or solve some of these problems. Then there's creating the solution, and this is the action part of the design cycle. This is where you take the feeling, the problems, you've developed some of the ideas, now you're going to take action, take steps to help out. And then sharing that and evaluating the success of the project. So for example, with Caring for Cambodia, the children need 20,000 toothbrushes over the course of the year. I think they give each child 3 toothbrushes at different times during the year because, as you know, they wear out. And so the problem is these children had very poor hygiene, and it was definitely affecting their health. And so they developed the idea as well, if that's the case, why don't we provide toothbrushes and toothpaste and hygiene for them, clean water for them, dentists for them to be able to help with those problems. And so that was the action part of it. And then they evaluated the success of that. And then and notice the arrows in the middle, you can actually go all different ways. Like if you get to a point where you're acting and something's not happening, plan A is not quite working, you can go back to the developing ideas. Well, okay, we got to go back to the drawing board, have to figure something else out. And then you go back and you act. And then you evaluate the success, how well your action solved the problem. And then if it solved the problem, great. If it didn't quite solve the problem, or if you need to figure out something else, then you go back and do it again. Okay, so this is just another slide that again talks about the 4 different areas in the middle and the part of the IB design cycle. All right, so how are you going to use the IB design cycle this year? Well, all the grades 6, 7, and 8 can use the IB design cycle when you're working on projects for your classes. For the 8th graders specifically, you will be using the design cycle as you plan and complete your 8th grade community project. This will take place from December through April. And so we're going to start getting some of our ideas together. We've talked about how all middle years programs for IB expect students to become actively involved in and focus on the whole design process rather than just on the final product. And so really it's the whole process between December and April. We want to see what you guys can come up with, 8th graders, as far as your projects. And we'll talk more about this, but like our school-wide community project with Caring for Cambodia, for those 8th graders with Well Aware, your 6th grade year, and then with the Miracle Foundation, if you tap into an organization that already has things established for your community project, it's much, much easier for you to then jump in and help them out with a portion instead of starting your community project from scratch. That's the hardest way to do it. You can still do it. It just makes it a little bit harder to complete it. All right, and then 6th and 7th graders, you'll again be using the design cycle in your regular classes to complete your projects. And you'll also see as a school how we use the parts of the design cycle as we complete our school-wide community project with Miracle Foundation. All right, so that is it for today. And I look forward to talking with you again on Thursday, and we'll complete the second half. Have a good day.